It is the same old Jets. The New York Jets traveled to Foxborough, Massachusetts yesterday and took on the New England Patriots, where they suffered a brutal, an ugly, a horrific 25-22 loss to follow to 2-6 on the season, with the Jets' playoff hopes basically dead. What should fans be rooting for from here on out? Who better to bring on to talk all things New York Jets than New York Jets beat reporter for the Daily News, Mr. Antwan Staley, all here on a Monday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
Same old, same old. Our New York Jets entering the season, arguably the most anticipated season in Jets history, and they go out. They start 2-6, and things don't get much easier. They host the Texans on Halloween on Thursday Night Football, a very hot Texans team at that, 6-2. CJ Stroud. There are some injury problems, but nothing that I've seen, at least as of late, shows me that the Jets are going to go out and impress on Halloween. I'm not picking the Jets to win any other game this season until they prove me wrong. But let's bring on our guest for today's show. He covers the team for the New York Daily News, Mr. Antwan Staley, here on the show. Antwan, how you doing?
I'm all right. How you doing?
With the exception of this, not counting, the team's results, I'm doing fine. But counting the team's results, boy, this has been disgusting, Antwan. 2-6 start to the season. I know we've been talking off air about this team, and you were one who wasn't as optimistic for the team entering the season as most. You thought, they might have been overrated. Then turns out you are correct. Overrated is an understatement. This team is 2-6 through the season's first 8 games. Let's start by getting into yesterday's game. Just a disaster, really, to put it lightly. I mean, a bad football game overall. Drake May, he goes out, first possession. Patriots take the lead, and then Drake May ends up having to come out for Jacoby Brissett and Antwan. And it was very clear Gerard Mayo and the Patriots coaching staff didn't trust Brissett with the football. They were clearly relying on more of a run-heavy game plan. The Jets were unable to stop the run, and that just spiraled. Mistake after mistake. Greg Zuerlein, he goes out, misses a few kicks yet again. We'll get into Zuerlein. But overall thoughts on that disgrace yesterday?
I thought the Patriots made adjustments in the second half. I mean, clearly when Brissett came in there, they didn't game plan for him to be in there. But, the second half, I think Alex Van Pelt, the offensive coordinator, I guess they, cooked up something in the locker room, and then they became a little bit more confident in Brissett. And then you start seeing them throw the ball a little bit more, including obviously the big play that kind of set up the booty. They kind of set up the 1-yard touchdown run to Stevenson there. But yeah, I mean, it's the same old story with the Jets too. Whether it be penalties, like it's just been mistake after mistake. I mean, they used 3 timeouts in the first quarter. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen that like that quickly. I mean, then they had to use the time. They had to delay a game on the 2-point conversion. I mean, it was just mistake after mistake, and it's just amateur stuff that you don't see at the NFL level typically, and it's just mind blowing that. I don't know necessarily who to blame. I think I blame a lot of different people there. I mean, obviously, it's a lack of leadership there. I never thought Robert Saleh should have been fired in season to begin with. If you were going to do it, I thought it should have been done last year after the 7-10 record. But to go into the season, interim coaches hardly ever work in this league. And then now you got a guy, Jeff Albrecht, who had never had a head coaching experience before. And then all of a sudden now he's tasked to be a CEO in addition to keeping the still defensive coordinator position, his job, and calling plays. And clearly the defense has taken a bit of a step back too in the process too. And along with the offense, which has continued to struggle, and Aaron's not necessarily playing well. So you sum all that up and you got a 2-6 team, and, basically they're not, completely out of it, but they're on life support right now.
To touch on a few things there, Antwan, you did mention the penalties, the delay of games, the Jets having to burn all 3 timeouts in the first quarter. What do you believe that is a result of? Do you think that's Downing maybe taking too long to call the plays, or Rodgers trying to change the play at the line of scrimmage, but he's taking too long to get everyone in line?
it just don't seem like it's a sense of urgency. And then I don't
Mhm.
know. I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. I think Rogers probably plays a role in that. He could hurry up and try to get people
Yep.
to the line there. I think them not getting the playoff in time too, because it seems like they're always late to the like they're always like coming up like right
Yes.
towards the few seconds right before you have to snap the ball, and it's not just what some teams do it a little bit throughout the course of the game, but it's always late for the Jets, and I don't understand that. So I think it's play calling. I also think it's Rogers not, getting that sense of urgency. And it goes back to what they said after the Pittsburgh game, where it's kind of like, you don't have that. They're just missing the energy. It just don't seem
Yep.
like it's there. And I think it's a lack of leadership there in the locker room. It seems like I don't know who that stems from, but again, when you fire head coach, and then all of a sudden now people are trying to step into certain roles, and that's where you have a Devontae Adams trying to, have a speech after the game, trying to rile people up. And, I was left in the sideline yesterday, and it just seemed like it was kind of the same thing that you saw in Pittsburgh. Although I know Albert said the energy was up and, the sense of urgency, but it just didn't seem like that on the sideline to me at all.
Yeah, you mentioned the lack of leadership there, Antoine. I know this might not be the question a lot of fans of the team want to hear, but you think Aaron might be the problem? I mean, I know we've talked about he's that veteran presence. He wants to be that leader, and I can see how it might be confusing, a bit dysfunctional for these younger guys. Okay, who do I go off? Who do I go off? Is it Aaron or is it Coach Olbrich? So, do you think there's any chance that Aaron is that problem?
I think some of that, yeah. I think it's
Mhm.
fair to say that too. He's a 20-year veteran, so you would think that he would lead a certain way and just help
Yep.
team that and try to change the culture of an organization. That's what he
Um.
was brought here to do when in 2023. Aaron
Yeah.
has reached the highest peak of the NFL, winning the Super Bowl there, been in multiple NFC championships there, a lot of playoff success, and then the Jets. Not so much, especially in recent years. As of right now, it looks like it's going on 14 consecutive years of them missing the playoffs. And, when you have a guy like that, he even mentioned like the Super Bowl trophy is getting lonely and how he wanted to basically try to do what Tom Brady and Peyton did. But I
Mhm.
think, the problem with that is what you're seeing is maybe this is the reason why, he hasn't been able to get back to another Super Bowl because, not in addition to some of the talent issues that the Packers had as well. But I remember just watching the Xavier Newman play in Pittsburgh, and everybody was over there like huddled around him. But it's this video that has Aaron just by himself on the sideline,
Wow, I didn't see that.
and yeah, I'll send it to you
Yeah.
after we're done. But I just find that very interesting, and I'm like, wow, like I think that says a lot, especially with an offensive lineman like that's kind of
Mhm.
like your brother, like somebody that you play on the long side with. Although I know Newman is a reserve, but
Okay, yep.
that video just said a lot to me about just about what's going on. I think that sums it up pretty perfectly.
And staying with the topic of Aaron Rodgers, before we move on to Greg Zerline, after the game, Antoine, when you guys, the reporters, were speaking to him, our guy Connor Hughes of SNY, great friend of the show here, he asked Rodgers a question, and Rodgers responded, "quote a bit dramatic of a question." Even for you, and I heard Connor kind of laugh there, and then he went on Twitter and say, "Hey, that wasn't even that wasn't even an egregious question." Aaron Rodgers now is someone, he's gone out, he's told his teammates, okay, stop listening to the media, and talking heads of, well, you're telling your teammates to stop listening to the media, yet you're making a weekly appearance on the Pat McAfee show. Jeff Saturday, Dominique Foxworth, they've accused him of, quote, sending messages through the McAfee show. Thoughts on Rodgers' kind of relationship there with the media, and do you think he's kind of blaming them? It's hard to understand here.
Well, I remember the end of last season. He said the Jets need to get all the BS out of the room that has nothing to do with football. But he's part of that. He's part of that. He's part of the problem.
Yes.
Like when you go on McAfee, when you do these extracurricular things, when you flirting with being somebody's vice president in a campaign,
Mhm.
like that's extra stuff that is not typically normal on a football team. So yeah, he's part of the reason. He's part of the problem. I think he's saying that probably because he wanted everything out, like not in addition to what he does out of the building, but you have to factor in like all that stuff matters. And then going to Egypt on mandatory minicamp and
Mhm.
all that stuff. I'm not saying that's the reason they're 2-6. I'm just saying the optics behind it. So you
Yes.
can't say all that stuff when you can't say that when you're doing all the stuff that has nothing to do with football outside of it and bringing extra distractions in the building. And players have to sometimes answer for some of those things too as well. So yeah, I mean, it's something. It's a bit hypocritical, I find. But the Jets feel like they're comfortable with it, and they're going to ride or die no matter what happens, I guess. And right now, they're definitely going to they're going to the wheels fall off, and it seems like the wheels are starting to fall off with the Jets pretty quickly because it seems like they're about out of it before Halloween.
Absolutely, everyone. Make sure you smash that like button and you are subscribed to the channel. This show is brought to you by Huga House. Go to hugahouse.com and use promo code Connor15 for 15% off on your first hat at checkout. 30% off. Several celebrities: Aaron Rodgers, Michael Carter II, Shane Gillis, Shohei Ohtani, Josh Allen, Brian Bumgarner, and more. Go to hugahouse.com and use promo code Connor15. Now, Antwan, let's get into the elephant in the room, if you will, Greg Zuerlein. Boy, oh boy, coming off last year, which is arguably the best campaign led by a kicker in Jets history. His numbers were just through the roof. Franchise record 93.8% of his field goal attempts he converted on, and 5 for 6 from 50-plus yards and 13 of 14 from 40-plus yards. Now you look and just eight games removed from a 2-year extension this offseason, he's really struggled, arguably costing the Jets 3 games, and his latest struggles coming just yesterday against the New England Patriots, missing a field goal and an extra point. The extra point, a lot of people are directing that towards Morstead showing him the laces, but I'm in the boat that it's an extra point, and you should still be able to convert an extra point, even if you show the laces. It's not like it was a 55-yard attempt or something crazy like that. Thoughts on his struggles. The Jets did go out. They worked out Cade York, Riley Patterson, and Matt Coughlin less than 2 weeks ago. And Jeff Olbrich said that he's gonna, have an open tryout for some of the kickers, and whoever looks best will play on Thursday. You think the Jets move on from Zuerlein?
It seems that way. I mean, it seems like
Okay.
that's the writers on the wall. He was at. I asked Jeff Albrecht after the game his confidence in Zuerlein, and he kind of deflected it like they're going to look at everything in addition to the team. So he didn't necessarily to have that vote of confidence like he had been the past couple of weeks too. I mean, and then he was asked today. It was kind of the same thing, and then he brought up they're going to try out some kickers. This probably should have been happened a few weeks ago when they tried out kickers there. Bottom line, I think it's 2 ways to look at it. I think Zuerlein is the GOAT here. Like, I think a lot of people are just blaming him because, he's easy to blame. It's easy to blame the kicker for, the lack of success the Jets have had. That's not why they're not a good football team, although he plays a role in that. But they definitely could have won the Denver game. You can make the case about Buffalo, here or there. I still think the Bills probably would have found a way to win. I mean, I hate what else because you could talk about what if Aaron Rodgers didn't complete the Hail Mary because the Bills probably would have blown him out the building. So I kind of hate hypotheticals in that way. But the bottom line is I feel like they probably would have won. They might be 400 or 500 right now as opposed to 2-6 there. I still think they have a flawed football team, but yeah, they definitely have to show up the kicking situation because they're not good enough to overcome mistakes like that. I don't know if they're good enough to overcome any mistakes, quite frankly, at this point. But yeah, I don't know if they're good enough to overcome mistakes like that where you're missing extra points and field goals. And he's missed 6 field goals this year in addition to 2 extra points. I think his first year at the Jets, he missed 7, and last year he missed 3. So I think that was much better years for him. And then you need to have a solidified kicker. And it sucks because Austin Schaefer was a really good kicker in the preseason.
24-25.
I actually thought he outplayed Zuerlein, but the fact of the matter is, like, they kept the veteran, and it seems like the things are kind of coming off track. Sort of like what happened with him with the Rams, and then also with the Cowboys too as well. It seemed like it's just kind of gotten in his head.
One more question here from the chat before we go to the phone line. Sharon wants to know, somebody has to know what's wrong with Greg. Is it mental or is it physical? Antwan, I'll go first here on this one. In my column I put out for Jets X Factor, I believe it's mental, because I think the biggest thing, once a kicker loses their confidence, it's like a snowball rolling down a hill. It only gets worse, and then each miss just builds up and just creates more stress and pressure on the guy, and then they just continue to spiral out of control. I think it's mental. He's in his own head. He's lost his confidence. What about you, Antwan?
Well, yeah, I just kind of alluded to it too. I mean, I think this has happened before where he's had really good seasons and then all of a sudden he misses field goals and then it seems like he just can't get back on track. Again, it happened with the Rams. I remember the Cowboys situation where before he got cut, he was missing extra points. He was missing, chip shot field goals. And it's kind of, the same thing with the Jets too. It seems like he's missing kicks that he would normally make. Now, I know some of the coaches were saying that maybe it was a very windy in Buffalo, so that might have had a little bit to do with it too. I know Tyler Bass also was struggled to that particular game, but it hasn't been just a one game sample size. It's been multiple games where it's been like this. So again, like you got to show up the kicking situation. They hope he had broken out of it. Obviously, that's not happening. So they have to. I think they have to find some type of replacement. I don't think it's going to save their season, but again, like it might win them a couple of games down the stretch.
Let's go to the phone lines. We have our guy Johnny Boy up here on the show. Johnny, what's going on?
Connor, what's going on? Antwan, how you doing, man? Thank you so much.
I'm all right. How you doing?
Bro, I love your insight, man. You keep it real and you don't hold back, and I appreciate that, man. So I follow you on X as well, and some of the stuff you put on there is awesome, bro. I did have a quick question.
You. Yeah, what's up?
So it's in regards of the offense and the defense, right? I know you're always there. I always hear you asking really good questions and whatnot, but do you see that there is a division amongst the offense and the actual defense itself? Because one of the remarks that was made yesterday from Aaron was, it looks like we got to score 30 points, right, to go ahead and win a game where this wasn't what was happening before. I haven't seen like Brees and like Sauce go out or things like that. So I just wanted to get, I don't want to start nothing because I love this team, right? But from what I see and what I keep hearing, like, with the press conferences and whatnot, is this something that's occurring? Connor, I appreciate you. Antwan, thank you so much, man. Keep killing it. And
well, thank you.
Go Jets.
I actually think it's a really good question too because I definitely want to answer that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, what you got, Antwan?
I think that's a very good question because I noticed that too, and I was like, okay, he kind of threw the defense under the bus. Yeah. When, quite frankly, if you look statistically, although the Jets defense has struggled the last 3 weeks since Saleh has been fired, it's clearly like they're giving up nearly 30 points per game. But statistically, they're still fourth in the league in total in yards allowed. So it's not like the Jets defense isn't just completely showing up. I mean, they're giving up some explosive plays. They can't stop the run at times. I think it is some questions there, but I don't think, you look at the Jets offense, it's not good enough to like just throw the defense under the bus like that. So I thought that was very interesting. So I don't know if I wouldn't say it's division because, DJ Reed spoke on Monday and then basically said, I could just speak on the defense. So I think, maybe, it's something, Aaron misspoke or like maybe that's just kind of what he was in his mind. But, I think amongst other players, I don't think it's division. But then you also hear, guys like Quincy Williams after the Vikings game talking about accountability and people need to be accountable. Who exactly is he talking about? So it could be. It definitely could be. But I don't sense it is at this point. It'll be interesting to see if that continues. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting, him saying that after the game, because I was like, the defense is one of the reasons why you came here in the first place. Because you talked about having a championship defense, and all of a sudden now you feel like you have to score 30 points. Because it used to be he could score 20 because the defense was so good.
Yes, the 81-10 thing, yes.
Exactly. So now let's say you got to score 30. I just found that very interesting.
Yeah, one more quick thing. You mentioned the defense struggling a bit after, the firing of Saleh. So this will be our last question, your Antwan, before we let you go. Ulbrich spoke about after the game possibly handing over the defensive play calling duties. Do you think that has something to do with it? Ulbrich trying to be that in-game coach, that in-game manager, while also calling defensive plays. Do you think he will eventually turn those duties over? And then who does he turn them over? Is it defensive line coach Aaron Whitecotton, linebacker coach Mike Rutenberg? Is it Marquand Manuel? Is it Tony Oden? Who is it you think that takes over these play calling duties?
Well, it won't be this week because Albert said he's going to continue coach doing both jobs this week. To answer your first question, it's a lot when you're trying to be a CEO of an whether it be an organization or a football team. You're not only you're trying to focus on one group, but you're also focusing on the entire team. In addition to that, I don't think a lot of people know this. Like you're worried about scheduling. Like it's just And then people may not think it's a big deal, but you have to fit in every single thing without the course of a day, like when the players meet, when they do film, when they practice, like tons of other stuff too. In addition to talking to the media, when you want to do that, like it is a lot that these coaches have to deal with, and they're waking up typically reports to the facility like 6 o'clock in the morning, and then they're
Jesus.
staying all day long. So you have to keep in mind, like it is a tough job, and all of a sudden, like just the defensive coordinator is a tough job, and then you're adding on more responsibilities. So I think when he took the job, he probably should have dedicated those responsibilities to somebody else, and just him focus on the whole entire team. I think now it's going to be kind of hard to go back to that, especially when you're going to have 8 games left. So let's just say the Jets, they lose, they go 2-7. Like, what do you go from there? Like, do
Yeah.
you continue? Like, you might as well continue to go down this road too, because then all of a sudden, to have a different voice that Jamie Sherwood is hearing in the microphone and this helmet, and that's maybe a distraction, maybe that's something new that he has to get used to there, and then that can mess up the whole flow of the team too as well. So if he were to give it up, yeah, I think White Cotton or Odin probably would be the guys there, just kind of guess there, but I don't know if that's going to happen too at this point, because it seems like I think if it were going to happen, it would probably happen in a week like this, or maybe they'll have 10 days out before they get ready for Arizona. Maybe they decide to do it then, but I don't know if it's going to happen. As long as Auburn's the coach for the rest of the year.
Anton, we appreciate it. Any final thoughts?
No, people can find me social media all over the place, Antwan Staley, and just read my work at the New York Daily News at nydailynews.com.
Antwan, we really do appreciate one of the best beat reporters out there. Everyone, make sure you smash that like button and you are subscribed to the channel. Antwan Staley, Connor Long, signing off. JTS Jets.